the hell are you supposed to be?
Zombie takeout, you schmuck.
There's such a thing as carrying an impersonation too damn far. Hello and welcome to Zombie Takeout, the B-movie cult movie show. I'm John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got some feedback from Bodo on Twitter in reference to last week's movie, The Sunshine Boys. He said, at Zombie Takeout, oops, for some reason I had Neil Diamond singing The Sunshine Boys. I even watched the slow movie and still didn't get Neil Simon's name right. Who made the statement, if I had a brain, I'd be twice as smart? Oh yeah, that was me 40 years ago. I mean, Neil Diamond, Neil Simon, it's actually kind of a reasonable mistake.
He should have written a play called Sweet Caroline, honestly.
Yeah.
It's would have been fitting.
And I mean, they sound a lot alike, so if you heard Neil Simon, Neil Diamond, it's a reasonable connection. And of course, that brings us to this week's movie, which is from 1972, Fuzz. This is our Burt Reynolds tribute. And of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by generic 70s cop drama funk. It's like if George Clinton was replaced by Henry Mancini, only worse.
And also brought to you by, what else but the Planet 1970s. Come for the punch card computers, stay for the rape.
Yeah, this was incredibly dated.
Oh, all right. So this plot summary is
going to be interesting.
I really should have some alcohol to do this, actually, because I mean, let's be honest. This was all over the place. We have 4 subplots running through. This is the best way. I don't know if chronological really works on this. Because, let's see, you've got a precinct.
Calling them subplots implies there was a main plot.
Well, that's true. There wasn't a main plot. All 4 plots were subplots, weren't they?
Yeah.
And without really a main one. And they somehow come together, or a couple of them come together in the end, which is really fucking weird. But considering they're like completely unrelated cases, you know? So yeah, you have this precinct in Boston, and it's being painted, which is kind of a subplot too. One of the 4 subplots of it being painted.
Painters were I have some things to say about the painters.
They're pretty much well, never mind. We'll get to them in a bit. So we have them. We have a string of homeless people being burnt alive, which is treated with remarkably light touch here. I don't know if it's just a 70s thing that we're like, whatever, or, you know.
I think it was pretty much a 70s thing where, nothing was treated seriously then, really.
I don't know. It's just a very bizarre thing. But anyway, so we have a string of homeless people being burned alive. So we have a cop going, which they treat him like he was from another planet doing a stakeout or sting operation to try to flush out whoever is doing this without backup.
Yeah, just out there alone.
Yeah. So then which also brings us to a new detective being brought in because there is a serial rapist also. So they're going to use this detective as bait to bring out this rapist again. No backup. And in the middle of all of this, they start getting phone calls threatening different commissioners of the city to that they're going to kill.
A mad bummer. What strikes at midnight? Sorry for the.
First, it starts out as a shooter, then it turns into a bomber, and then it turns into this weird heist caper bombing thing with the liquor store somehow tied into it, which I'm not really sure I get how the liquor store plays.
But that was the most exciting part of the movie.
It's true. That led to the most exciting part of the movie, and why their henchmen were going to knock off the liquor store at the same time. None of that made any sense.
Explained in this movie.
So we have
hilarity ensues.
Yeah, hilarity ensues. Those are all that you need to know that's going on in this.
And the opening credits and the music remind me of every 70s cop drama movie or TV show. It's all just incredibly generic.
I think if we did this the other way around, if we stuck to the original schedule of doing Shaft this week, you'll see exactly how much they took from it.
But we just checked before we went live, and Shaft was only a year before this.
This was not made in a very long time period.
Fair point. They might have ripped it off, yeah.
From what I hear, I think Raquel Welch was only there for like a week or two.
Well, yeah, but she hated Reynolds because of some comments he made when they were working on 100 Rifles in '69. They didn't have any. They had one scene where they were in the same room and didn't make eye contact. Beyond that, she demanded no scenes with him.
Wow. Because I think I recall seeing Reynolds saying he liked working with her. Or was glad to be working with her.
Okay, because I also said he saw him say that he liked working with Weston.
Yeah.
And they had great chemistry. That was like the one thing that maybe saved the movie is the chemistry between Reynolds and Weston.
Well, I think it's a shame because, I mean, they had so much talent here with
regards
of cast. Yul Brynner, I mean...
And they save him for the last half hour.
Yeah.
Arguably the best part of the cast, only in the last half hour.
I think a lot of this cast was not here. I mean, people probably just came. I think they said Raquel Welch was there for like 9 days of shooting, and that was it.
Oh, wow. And Brian De Palma was going to direct originally, but he disagreed with the casting of Yul Brynner and Raquel Welch, so he left. And this was the film debut of Brian Doyle Murray.
No kidding. I kind of missed him in the back.
There were two cops talking in the station throughout the movie. One of them was a guy with dark hair and sideburns, looked very Italian. The other guy was Brian Doyle Murray.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. I know who you're talking about now.
But another thing aside from the chemistry between Reynolds and Weston that I liked was all the background noise in the police station. It had a very Barney Miller feel.
It did. And this is definitely predates Barney Miller. I don't know. Barney Miller worked as a comedy, though.
Well, better writers. But I did like the kind of background noise and the sort of I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but kind of free time feel of the police station, where they it felt like they just could turn a camera anywhere and there was something going on.
Yeah.
Although
I was kind of sitting there like, is this how you really want to tell a story, kind of thing? I mean.
Although there's one scene where there's one cop on the phone in the foreground and another cop talking to Raquel Welch's character in the background, and he's the one we hear. Even though he's in the background. Made no sense.
So, I mean, I think the big question about this movie was what really could have saved it is if it wasn't a comedy. If they did this as
a drama,
a straight-up drama, I think they really would have had something here.
And gotten rid of the fucking painters.
Yeah.
Because they thought they were this double act. But like we were trying to be like Abbott and Costello or something, but it just didn't work.
I recognized it right away. They were being the gas station attendants from Mad World. I can't remember their names.
Oh, okay.
I probably should have looked them up before it. But, let's get him, Erwin. That whole...
It was them, yes. But it just didn't work at all.
One of them went on to be like the cook in Three's Company.
Oh, okay. Oh.
I'm like, he looks so familiar.
Another thing that didn't work at all for me was the pool hall scene. What was the point of that?
Pool hall scene. Oh, yeah.
Weston walks into a pool hall, and the guy who runs the place is kind of giving him some heat because he's new there.
He's trying to pick up information. He was trailing the other guy into the pool hall and was just, stalling to see where he was going to be.
Okay.
But it turns out that guy had nothing to do with the plot.
Yeah.
Even though he did pick up one of the lunch pails and they trailed him.
Yeah.
None of that made any sense.
The movie is ridiculously meandering.
Yeah.
And it's weirdly dubbed at points. at one point, the long-haired guy with the lunchbox, they're interrogating him, and he says, well, we hear him say, "Go stick it in your hat," but he's clearly not saying that. And there were a few other ones that were just weirdly timed.
Well, it leads me to believe they originally wanted to put this out into theaters, but I think it wound up in television.
Okay, so they had to censor that line. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And there's also a scene with, Tom Skerritt's character is kind of rapey.
Oh, yeah.
Constantly hitting on Raquel Welch's character.
He's kind of 1970s.
Very 70s. Well, he's very 70s. One scene, they're on this stakeout, and the two of them are in this sleeping bag together. And of course, he's pulling this shtick where it won't open. And Weston and Reynolds are also playing nuns during the same stakeout.
Which I'm not sure why they played nuns, but I don't know. I think they did. Did they do that in Cannonball Run again? I don't know.
Probably. And when they get back to the station afterward, they're kind of hazing him about it, and they like pull his sweater like half off of him while they're still in nun's habits. It was just insanely 70s. Now, one thing though that I did really appreciate, Reynolds' character's wife is deaf and mute, and the suspect of the bombings is also has a hearing aid. And Weston says to him, is this a sensitive issue for you because of your wife? And he says he never thinks about her being deaf and mute. And it's in the one scene she's in, it's a complete non-issue. That was incredibly progressive, and I'm really glad it happened in the year I was born.
I was kind of shocked too that they didn't make that a plot point.
Yeah, I was really happy with that. It brought it a brain, frankly.
I think, well, I had to do some research on this because it was kind of like, what did we just see? And this is based from a series of novels.
Yes, by Evan Hunter under the name Ed McBain. Yeah, and the 87th Precinct.
I believe that is taken from the novel, which means he wrote that in the 60s.
Which again, beautifully progressive.
I don't know. It's and like the deaf man is like the
villain.
They compare him to like Moriarty to this precinct.
Yeah. It was great. Now I have to say this, as this is the role I often fill on this show. Peep shows are so primitive. There's a scene at a peep show. You're paying quarters to look through like this square rectangle at the top of a door. You're standing there, and it's video you're watching.
Yeah, I thought the point of that was that it wasn't video that you were watching.
Yeah, that too.
But I guess there are I guess the old timey stuff, like what the butler saw, that's pretty much. What was the beginning of it?
It's what they had at the time, I guess, but it just seems so primitive these days.
It's about the progress of technology and the ability to see women's bottoms.
Well played.
Thank you.
Watch Coupling if you've never seen it.
Yeah, you gotta watch Coupling. You haven't seen it already. One of the greatest monologues ever.
Yeah. Now, back to the movie.
Yes.
A large part of its issue as well is that it's just horrible at setting up stakes. Nothing feels important.
Right. And
I didn't even know who was in the car that exploded toward the end.
Well, that they set up well. The that wasn't the mayor. You're right. Who the fuck was that?
I think it was the commissioner, but
it was the commissioner. Was it the mayor? Was it the deputy mayor? I can't remember. I think it was the deputy mayor. It was the Scanlon, right? It was the deputy mayor.
Okay. I remember Scanlon.
And that was his wife, and I guess there was a cop and a driver in there, detailing. And then they just kill. I don't know if they kill off this other couple that just credited or not. It was just like really quickly done.
And the explosion is way louder than the rest of the movie.
But when you say the stakes, though, I mean the absolute worst part of this, and I mean to even overdo like the triviality of that they make of rape.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, people would be like, "You just made a joke of rape." It's because of the movie context itself, which they pretty much do make a joke of rape in the movie, actually.
Yeah.
But no, even worse than that is the handling of the burning of homeless people.
Yeah, it's very trivialized. A little bit of trivia. Burt Reynolds almost suffered serious burns to his face while doing that stunt.
Wow.
While he's on stakeout, he gets burned by these kids who were burning homeless people. During a scene in which he was set on fire, out of control flames whipped up his asbestos-lined coat sleeve around his neck and along the back of his head. I'm chuckling out of shock here. The cut made it into the movie. So yeah, that's what we saw, was him actually getting burned.
I mean, I think if they should have played that longer of him healing, like being bandaged up.
Mm-hmm.
I think it should have been the whole movie of him just being like,
subplot.
I mean, just like he's a detective, but he doesn't have his hands, kind of thing. And they're in the middle of shootouts and shit, and he can't use his hands.
And to the end, and with regard to those killings being taken lightly in the movie, a couple of murders took place in late '73 that mirrored those scenes in the film. The incidents led to a careful review by network standards and practices, and a general feeling that violence on TV was inspiring violence in real life.
Yeah, this was the beginning of that, and you're right. That's what I mean. How I found out this was on TV more than even in the theaters. I don't think it made it to the theaters.
Yeah, it was actually pulled temporarily from TV, from TV movie blocks until it was recut years later. So yeah, I mean, it's taken very lately in the film, but it actually possibly inspired some real life murders.
Like, I mean, spoiler alert, we don't even. It took me a little bit to understand that if they were going to actually arrest them in the end or not. I mean, he like, of course, he punches one out, and then we're like, well, wait a minute, is that just him being mad for burning him?
That's kind of what I got, and yet he doesn't hit the other one because he's cowering.
Yeah. So I'm like, I mean, they are going to arrest them, right? I mean,
and they really didn't make, I mean, I assume they did, but they really didn't make that clear.
Yeah, and I think they did.
Ending was a bit of a mess. I mean, first of all, again, got to criticize them for holding on to Yul Brynner till the last half hour. But then they get to the shootout in a liquor store, which was the only part of the movie that was at all exciting.
I did like that part. I mean, just the whole, like, the one guy's dressed as a cop. They come in through the other side. It's the cops.
One of the beat cops at the station who we saw all the time. He was the one who got shot, who started the shootout, basically. But
I thought he was the henchman dressed as a cop.
No, I think he was one of the actual cops.
Oh, Yul Brynner had a henchman who's dressed as a cop who got in.
I thought that, okay, maybe.
So they thought, the guys coming in through the other side to knock over the liquor store come in and see this guy dressed as a cop, but he's not really a cop. Okay. So they have this whole shootout with like Yul Brynner's guys and their guys. And the real cops are actually just like sitting in the middle looking at each other like, what the fuck is going on here?
Hiding in the back because they were expecting the bomber to show up at the liquor store.
Yeah, and he did.
And after the shootout, which, there's also a big car crash and the stunt with Yul Brynner like hanging off the back of a car. It was brilliant.
How many hats can you put on a hat?
Yeah, exactly. And then they announce with 5 minutes left of the movie that there's a bomb in the mayor's mansion. Then they go after the bomber, Yul Brynner, forgetting about the bomb in the mansion. Nothing is said about that afterwards.
They never resolved the bomb in the mansion, but they did put the bomb in the mansion earlier. That scene where they went into the mansion with the power, where they somehow took the whole power grid out and they put the bomb under the bed.
And Scarrett finds the map and sees there's a bomb in the mayor's mansion. He says there's a bomb in the mayor's mansion. And then they go after and apprehend the bomber and the kids burning the homeless people. And the kids burning the homeless people think the bomber is a homeless person because he got shot in the car accident before the car accident.
Staggering a bit.
And he's staggering a bit and he's bleeding. So they think he's some homeless person. They burn him while Reynolds is watching. He runs up, decks one of them, and arrests them. The actual bomber falls into the water, presumed dead. Nothing else is said about the mansion.
They didn't.
And end of movie, except for a little. Well, we'll get to that in sequels and remakes. Anything else?
No, I think
that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Sequels and remakes at the very end of the movie.
Just I smell credits, sequel.
A hand comes up and grabs the hearing aid that was sitting in the water. It seems so much like an I Smell sequel, but there was never a sequel, of course.
No.
And there's really no room for a sequel. Like a sequel attempt on this would have been pathetic.
But this is a whole series, actually.
But true. So maybe that was a nod to the book where it was an ongoing thing.
And of course, I mean the Deaf Man goes on for other books, from what I understand.
Okay, so they had to establish it makes sense.
Yeah,
because they had to establish that he had survived for the book series because he's a villain later. Okay, so there was maybe no intention of making another movie.
But yeah, it's a shame they couldn't have made this just a straight up drama cop action film.
Yeah.
And I mean, who knows? Maybe somebody could do a modern day telling of it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing particularly 60s about the plot.
I'm curious about the books. You know,
me too.
You know, I mean, what else was going on here? I mean, were the books written with this humor in mind?
I do want to check out some of the books. Given this is a tribute episode, got to shout out Burt Reynolds. He was great in the movie.
Yeah, he was good.
He was better than he normally is. He played the role just very subtly. He wasn't his typical machismo. You know, he played it very softly, which I loved.
Well, yeah, the character is kind of like a smarter man.
Yeah, he's a smarter, more evolved. He wasn't, the 70s machismo icon that Reynolds really was. From what I understand, the character is more like Reynolds in real life, because from what I've heard of people who worked with him, he was apparently a very nice guy. Very humble, very nice guy.
Yeah.
Raquel Welch, also one of the best performances I've seen from her.
Right. It kind of were on her side when they're making a joke out of her.
Didn't rely too heavily on her looks. She wasn't just, playing the sex bot like she always did.
There was a weird scene where one of the lieutenant or whatever walks in on her in the women's room,
and he's so shocked to see a woman there because there are no women working there until she gets there. And she just kind of stares for a while, and she ends up flipping him off.
Right. I think that scene didn't make it into the original version.
Oh, okay.
Because from what I had said, they had done a number of takes of that, and Welsh wasn't happy with any of them. But I'm like, but I saw the scene.
So and then it's
and of course, if she was flipping him off, they couldn't have had that on television.
Fair point. Yeah.
I kind of wonder what this would have been like if it was a theatrical release. What would have been done?
I'm wondering what would happen. I mean, I'm not a huge fan, but De Palma certainly would have made this exciting.
Yeah, he definitely wouldn't have done the humorous. He would have done the comedic tone. And we got to talk about the poster, which kind of led us into picking this one.
Yeah, because you had a misconception about this movie.
I mean, not really. It was kind of exactly what I thought it was going to be. I was kind of expecting a more comedic Dirty Harry.
Okay, because you said something about when we were first talking about it. We had to, obviously, Mr. Reynolds passed away in the past week, after we'd recorded the last episode. So we had to scramble to put this together. And there was a bit of debate. And so you picked Hot Fuzz, and you said that it was Burt Reynolds playing a serial killer.
No, that was another one.
Oh, okay. I was confused.
There was another one from the 90s that was interesting.
We might have to get to that one at some point then.
Now I have to look it up. It was
But yeah, I thought that was this one, and so
no. There were two different movies that we were looking at for a Burt Reynolds tribute, and this was one. This one just because it looked so weird. The movie poster, if you look at it on IMDb, it looks like Zardoz.
It does look very sci-fi. Yeah,
they've got Raquel Welch dressed up like Barbarella pretty much.
Very good point. Yeah.
And there's some other woman like in the background that you never see in this.
Maybe was it the woman who reported the rapist?
Maybe it may have been. It was.
She has like one scene that's kind of important, but she's kind of ushered away and not taken seriously. But
no, it was like a brunette woman.
Oh, the wife, maybe the wife.
Yeah, you're right. That's who that was.
Okay.
The other movie was 1995's The Maddening.
Okay, that sounds like one we might want to get to at some point.
He was completely insane in this psycho horror flick about a deranged father who will stop at nothing to protect his family's secrets.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like something we'll want to review.
It's with Angie Dickinson, Mia Sara, Josh Mistel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, they were both very tempting. But I think the poster for this.
Yeah, I said we'll go with Fuzz because I misunderstood that, but okay. And the other two we had suggested, I went with the cliche Smoking the Bandit, of course, which everybody's going to do.
I love Smoking the Bandit too.
But it is very cliche.
Anytime that there is like a real long line of traffic that I can't like make my turn or whatever, I will always say, that son of a bitch sure had a lot of friends.
And then you had suggested the end, which I loved a lot when I saw it.
Right.
I figure a movie, a posthumous tribute in which the actor is playing a suicidal character is maybe just a little over the line.
Oh, come on.
And on Twitter, Bodo suggested WW and the Dance Kings, which looked interesting, but we'd already settled on Hot Fuzz.
Fuzz. It's just Fuzz.
And Fuzz. And, well, on to brains.
On the brains.
I'm going to go 3.5. Like I said, the treatment of his wife and disabilities in general, the treatment of the deaf characters, bought it a brain. But beyond that, it was pretty average.
I'm going to go with 2. I think there was so much talent here. But yeah, they needed somebody with a voice and a direction, you know?
Yeah. All right, so what have we learned?
Young Tom Skerritt looked a hell of a lot like Paul Rudd.
Yeah. And I learned, hence all of my malaprops, that Fuzz is so much better when it's hot.
It is.
All right, that's it for Hot Fuzz. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't. Until next time, when we will finally be reviewing Shaft.
Damn right.
Always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.